Conversations about racial inequalities and social injustice can be difficult, and you're not alone in trying to figure out the best way to approach these important topics. Joining us to explain how to engage in discussions with sensitive subject matter are etiquette experts Darian and Monica Lewis. Welcome to the show.
Thank you for having us.
So right now we are seeing a lot of people initiate and take part in dialogue on topics like racism and social justice, but it's not always easy for so many people. They're stepping out of their comfort zone. What should people keep in mind when they're ready to engage? You suggest civility.
Exactly. Civility. It's a word that most people haven't heard of until most recently, but it simply means extending kindness, fairness, and basic manners to all members of your society, regardless of any parameter. So no matter where you live, how you were born, where you were born, wherever you are in our society, you are extended those basic core respect, common decency, and manners. So that's what we need to start with. Just being plain. Yeah.
Yeah, and social media right now, it's a huge platform where people post pretty much anything and everything on their minds, good and bad.
Right.
What's your advice to those who want to use their social accounts to put their thoughts on these issues out there?
Well, first I would say when you're thinking about posting, you really have to take a moment to step back and think about what you're going to post. Mm-hmm. We have an acronym that we typically use when we're talking about posting. It's TACT, mm-hmm. T-A-C-T. You know, the first thing you want to do is you want to test for diplomacy, meaning you want to take the time to see, is this necessary? Is this kind? Is it true? Is it relevant? And what do you think is going to actually happen?
Right, but then in addition to testing for diplomacy, test for your mental health, because sometimes emotionally we're not there to talk about it. Mm-hmm. And so once you do a check-in, a mental check-in, then you're able to deliver. So always test for diplomacy as well as your mental health.
Right, and then C, the C stands for communicate with empathy. Mm-hmm. Put yourself in the other person's shoes, or the person who's going to read this, or your group of friends. Figure out exactly how your words or your post could impact them. And if it's going to negatively impact them or cause you to have a more in-depth conversation, negatively or positively, that should also determine what you post and how you post it.
And Aubrey, sometimes I think that we get confused sympathy versus empathy. Sympathy is when you acknowledge that person's pain. I'm sorry for your loss. Oh my God, that must be hard. But when you have empathy, it actually aligns heart to heart. You're actually walking in those person's shoes. So it doesn't matter if you don't know what to say, but if you're feeling, it may not even require words, just being there in the moment. Right. And I think sometimes we get confused on what to say.
Right.
Oh, how should we say it? Take a moment and walk in those shoes of that other person, and it automatically will align your heart.
Right.
Would you agree?
Right. And that leads us to our last thing. That's the last T, T-A-C. Mm-hmm. The last thing, take time to listen. Mm-hmm. Sometimes we miss the message completely because we didn't really listen to what the intent was, or we didn't listen to the feedback that we received. If you take the time to listen and listen with the intent to understand or to gain clarity, instead of listening just so that you can respond or just you can post or have a catchy meme. Right. If you really take time to listen, it allows you to really be thoughtful and to really be productive in what you post or what you say. So our whole goal is to get people to really apply tact when they're on social media or even talking to each other in person.
Yeah.
The same rules apply.
Yeah, and you use tact when you're talking about all lives matter, Black lives matter. How do you use tact when you're trying to explain that to people?
Exactly. That's a subject that clearly can be divisive. Mm-hmm. The best thing to do is to understand that when someone says that Black lives matter versus all lives matter, what they're really saying is the focus right now is on those members of our society that have experienced oppression, systemic racism, systematic racism. Right now, the focus is understanding their plight, understanding what they're going through. Yes, all lives do matter. And because all lives matter, Black lives matter as well. And what we have to do is come to the table and not divide ourselves based on a slogan or a statement, but unite ourselves based on the situation at hand. And right now, civility is not being applied. Not all of our members of our society are being treated fairly or experiencing the opportunity to pursue happiness or obtain justice. So there has to be a special spotlight. Here, right now, we're talking about Black Lives Matter. Before, it was Latino lives, or before it was another group of our society.
Right.
We are a melting pot, and we have to be able to isolate and focus wherever one portion needs help or is hurting.
Yeah, you talk about it, having those conversations. You guys work with a lot of young people. You do etiquette classes.
Yes.
Talk about the skills that you're teaching in those etiquette classes.
Well, one thing that I noticed that some of our students that work with university are just in corporate world itself. They feel obligated to speak. You know, friends want them to speak, to show their grounds. But what we teach them that, if you're not ready to speak out, you don't have to speak out. Social media may not be your platform, but before you speak out, which you should never be pressured to speak out on any statement or even join any movement unless you're ready to deal with what's going on. So in order to deal with what's going on, first you have to pull out the facts, get the facts. In order to get the facts, you can look at history, you can read books, articles, so that you'll be able to do like historical.
Right, gain a perspective.
Yeah, gain a perspective historical.
Absolutely.
And then also, you don't have to make any social media posts. You can actually, vote your voice. Yeah. You can protest, or you can sign just a petition. Right. You are speaking out. So it's not a one-size-fits-all type of thing. And this is what we're teaching everyone, because our friends may feel like you need to speak out. Then some say, why are you not speaking out? Or if you speak out, you said the wrong thing.
Yeah. Well, you guys have so much great insight and information. A lot of us could use some tips on civility and even etiquette. Where can people go for more of your tips and information on maybe taking one of your classes?
Sure. Visit us online. You can visit us at www.mlsoe.com. That stands for Monica Lewis School of Etiquette. She's the Monica. Yes. I'm the Lewis. We're partnership.
I'm his mom.
That's great. Well, Monica and Darian, I want to thank you so much, our etiquette experts. Appreciate you being here.
Thank you.
Thank you.
This interview involves commercial content. The products and services featured appear as paid advertising.